compliance, sustainability, and so forth. And of course, the LEO broadband and IoT phenomenon. So, let's go back to a quick definition of new space versus legacy space. Yeah? We do see here in the frame on the right-hand side an ever-increasing area of new space domains that are being conquered, that are being financed with private funding, sometimes augmented with governmental funding, with governmental research or anchor tenancy, but we do see that more and more private investment is going into types of investments which were unthinkable 10, sometimes even 5 years ago. And you even see now companies going public, for instance, Japanese companies working on lunar exploration and space cleanup. So what is behind the new space phenomenon? On the financial side, it's clearly a shortening of the investment cycle. This is the typical space tech funding cycle, taking decades almost for people to make profit from their investments. In contrast, we've got the general tech cycle, which moves the venture capital and risk capital business. And new space phenomena actually allow that the space tech domains can shift into this shorter curve. Yeah? And these are the different trends that are underneath. And also on the financial side, you see that it's agile computing, software replacing hardware, miniaturization, and of course the IT mindset, the IT industry mindset, and many other factors that are playing in to make space now accessible, but also investable by normal venture capital. So we do see huge number of investments. The colleague from LCS has outlined the totals. Here we see that also generic investors and large private equity firms are getting themselves into space. The numbers have temporarily dipped a bit in 2023, but we do still see the investment is happening worldwide. Yeah? There are still a few countries that have some catch-up to play, but I'm sure it's going to come as well. We do see governmental funds around the world engaging in space. Europe, France, Middle East, East Asia. Yeah? Engaging directly into venture capital opportunities, but also through various fund of funds. We do see governments supporting their policy and putting money where their mouth is. And also with measures that increase actual demand for space activities. A few examples here from the policy side: Japan's recent announcement into a portfolio of measures for a $1 billion space fund. Europe investing into startup companies as customers, being a customer to these startup companies, and thereby allowing that these companies can raise money on the back of these orders, on these permanent orders. And thirdly, an example here from France, where France is investing in a number of alternative launcher companies, ordering launches from them, not investing R&D, but ordering launches from these companies. Here are a few details on the second one here from the European Union in combination with ESA under the Copernicus program. We have analyzed this one and many other anchor tenancy examples from around the world. And here on the right-hand side, you see the criteria that in the narrow definition of the US anchor tenancy, which ones are fulfilled and one is semi-fulfilled. Startups will get 5 million euros each per year as payment for their services and their data. And this will also create new services. So what was formerly a big government, big monstrous satellite program is increasingly supplemented by small satellites and agile software as a service services from startup companies. We also see private equity firms coming in. You might have heard the headlines of US giant KKR taking German OHD group from the stock exchange and certainly building it up to become a future champion. You see others investing directly into Seraspace, Axiom, Madbox, and so forth, and the amounts are increasing. They're going into the hundreds of millions nowadays. And that means these are mature investments that people believe in, where they see the revenues coming, and even if they're betting on Sarah being one of 2 or 3 future suppliers to ISS alternatives. Another key market that is driving demand, and in particular downstream demand, is the regulatory compliance business. The European Union, for example, has been very innovative in subscribing industry to adhere to regulate their greenness and their compliance with environmental regulation. And you see this is spurring quite a few partnerships and companies engaging in this field. In the energy sector, in the food sector, and even in the furniture sector. And more specifically, if you look at the energy sector, certainly also a very important one for the largest population in the world. Here an example from Europe, where energy giants have invested in or are cooperating very closely and strategically with data providers and satellite companies, providing solutions for their requirements for regulatory monitoring of methane, CO2, and other activities. Switching to another subject. Unfortunately, geopolitics spurs a new market, which has always been the biggest market of space, the defense sector. Yeah? It's a congested space domain that's creating new opportunities. We see also space and defense activities. Some of them are clouded under green and sustainability headlines, but ultimately they are strategic weapons, or at least defense mechanisms. Those aspects and the sovereignty perspective are playing big time and spurring government expenditures. Yeah? Unfortunately, as a side effect, also limiting at times the international trade that is possible for these dual-use technologies. But in any case, any space agency is looking at the dual use of its innovations, or at least, even if they have a purely civil mandate, they will have means and ways to make it available also for dual use. Here's an example from our latest market report on space defense and security, where you see how the global governmental defense market is splitting up, how this defense and security part is increasing over time. Check out our website for more details, and some more of the slides are publicly available. One area I'd like to touch on very specifically is space domain awareness. Yeah. We see here quite a few drivers on this side and different types of capabilities that are being piloted right now. At this moment, we're monitoring 50 data providers worldwide and 15 companies that are providing ground radars and in-space capabilities, and the numbers are growing day by day. It's not only the governmental and the space forces buying this data, it's also the private operators, because they see the congestion, in particular in Rio, is a means is an area where they need to do something about it. If there are more and more satellites, they need to more and more develop autonomous reaction mechanisms, but also from a pure economic point of view, get better predictions about when they need to evade a possible piece of debris or another satellite. So we do know of a number of startup companies that have signed contracts now, also advanced contracts with satellite operators and mega constellation operators to solve this problem for them. Some companies are even building a digital twin in the sky to map and monitor every piece of debris larger than 2 centimeters and any satellite anyway. So, coming to the last topic, SATCOM. SATCOM remains the key growth engine for space. And it's not exactly to scale, yeah? But you do see here, in particular on the right-hand side, the military part, of course, is one key driver. If you look at how many satellite constellations the United States are buying every year, ordering from various suppliers, it's almost a numbers game, where they just want to be ahead and want to make sure they have more satellites and capability in the sky that their adversaries cannot take them out all at once. And on the more civil side of things, it's of course the Starlink storm that is more and more reaching APEC, and we see the growth areas that are happening and more and more contracts that are being signed. Almost every month or so there's an announcement by Starlink that they've, so to speak, made an arrangement in various countries, leading to 300,000 subscribers in the Asia-Pacific region already. So I hope I could give you a bit of inspiration. My colleague Alexander Joik will be moderating another panel. He will have more data on mega constellations. I will be moderating another panel and also share a few more statistics there. I'd like to invite you to give us any questions during the breaks. I'm here for the whole 3 days. Thank you once again for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Horn, for the opening remarks. May I now invite Air Vice Marshal Rahul Hussain, Assistant Chief of Staff Operations Space, to kindly come and present his address to the gathering.
Dr. Subbarao, Prakash, distinguished panelists and guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. At the outset, my compliments to Team CR for organizing this third edition of the India Space Congress with the very interesting and relevant theme of bridging boundaries, transforming tomorrow. I thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to this eminent gathering of professionals in the space domain. Over the past century, air power has been used in military operations ranging from global war to peacekeeping operations. The rapid growth in air and space technology has added more capabilities to air and space forces over the years. It is my firm belief that the recently released space policy will give a shot in the arm to all those of us who seek to exploit space, and also to those who are involved in the research and development and the manufacturing of such capabilities. So these are interesting times for us, especially in the Indian Air Force, and I hope that this event helps us chart a way forward. Space systems have already shown and proven their worth with their ability to influence terrestrial events involving communications, navigation, weather, early warning, and intelligence, as well as their ability to enhance war-fighting capabilities. As you all know, our northern neighbor is fast transforming into a leader among spacefaring nations and is likely to outpace everyone else very soon. It is therefore now time for us to move towards developing and enhancing our own space capabilities so that we are not left too far behind. Because the space domain will define the wars of the future for sure. Operations in air and space have led to many discussions about the resources, strategies, and the ideas about the future form of warfare. Advances in satellite communications and information applications have added new dimensions to the traditional scope of air power. These capabilities are key to military aerospace power's future and therefore should be pursued aggressively. During the last 3 decades, in addition to satellite communication for beyond line of sight operations, it is evident that the exploitation of space domain has increased manifold, especially in ISR, navigation, space situational awareness, and space meteorology operations. All spacefaring nations are actively involved in developing critical technologies to cater for operations through this domain. From the Indian perspective, amongst the 3 services, the Indian Air Force has its operational role most closely related with the space operations. Unlike surface and subsurface domains, wherein there is a clear demarcation of the medium of operations, air and space operations cannot be segregated and conducted in isolation, because air and space are but one continuum. The Indian Air Force has always aligned its operations with the rapid advancements in the space domain and would continue to do so in the future as well. Our space resource utilization for enabling air operations can be broadly segregated into SATCOM, PNT, intelligence gathering, and space or satellite meteorology. Considering the likely threat from space, which would be in space or through space, the Indian Air Force is already aligning and expanding its situational awareness beyond the medium of air. As I mentioned before, since air and space are one continuum, the space situational awareness and air domain awareness need to be knitted tightly together to give one comprehensive and seamless air and space situational awareness to tackle any imminent threat, let me put it very mildly. Therefore, the IEF will be progressing towards integration of our integrated air command and control system with space situational awareness in the coming years. The future would be to evolve the Indian Air Force into a force ready for full spectrum operations in the air and space continuum. Key focus areas in defensive space capabilities would be towards incorporating advanced encryption techniques for resilient communication and data links, redundancies in all space-based services, and launch-on-demand capability to cater for any operational scenarios. While offensive space capabilities would also be pursued, this might not be the appropriate forum to discuss these. However, some of the areas for leveraging space for national security are as follows. The use of spin-off technologies from the Indian space program could boost the other sectors and vice versa. This would demand a degree of hand-holding though by the two major agencies, that is ISRO and DRDO. Involvement of more academic institutions, PSUs and industry for giving boost to our space program and generate more employment. Seeds for the same have already been sown in the form of the Death Space Challenges initiative of the government, which is giving opportunities to the space-related industries to come up with niche technologies for the armed forces. Cooperation and agreements with other friendly countries for developing of space programs and sharing of technologies, especially towards space situational awareness. Investment in space surveillance capability by installing long-range tracking radars and optical telescopes over the coming years. And hardening of our space infrastructure, not only against cyber attacks by better encryption, but also shielding them from EMP and other space-based directed energy weapons. Our northern adversaries' aspirations in space are driven by the judgment that space power emanates or enables the country's military modernization and drives the economic and technological advancements. It involves a wide network of entities like the political hierarchy, the military, defense industry, commercial sectors, education and research institutes. China has capitalized on international cooperation to acquire technology and expertise needed for its space program. Satellite and launch service sales provide its industry with the desired source of revenue. Our own assessment, aspirations, and the planned way ahead are not too different, except maybe for the scope or the scale envisaged. In keeping with our national and organizational capabilities and aspirations, human resource development for space domain is another key area the Indian Air Force is working on extensively. The training of personnel has begun in the College of Air Warfare, where two major regular courses are being conducted every year, with the aim to attain the target of training at least 100 space domain trained professionals from the three services every year. The training is focused on space domain topics such as SSA, space operations, and space law. In this aspect, various institutions like the ISRO, academia, and private industry partners are helping the Indian Air Force to create a pool of space domain trained personnel to take on all future challenges. To keep up with other space capable nations, including China, especially from the perspective of national security. We need to bring up the local industry by promoting Atmanirbharta, and for our education and research institutes to gear up to the rapidly changing technology and requirements in the field of space. I am sure that by the end of this event, we will be more aware of our needs and the means to bridge the capability gap. Thank you once again for giving me the opportunity and for giving me a patient hearing. Jai Hind.
Thank you very much. May I now call upon Sri Anil Kumar Lahoti, who is current Tri-Chief, who is a 1984 Indian Railway Services Engineers Officers who served as an ex-Railway Board Chairman as well. I request Sri Lahoti to kindly come and present his address to the gathering. Mr. Lahoti.
Esteemed dignitaries on the dais, distinguished delegates, friends from media, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. Satellite technology is, we just saw, witnessing a revolutionary growth, and I congratulate Satcom Industries Association India for organizing the Indian Space Congress 2024 on this very important topic to enable deliberations on the emerging opportunities and challenges. And I also thank them for inviting me to address this august gathering on this important subject. The role of satellite communications is increasingly becoming important for providing reliable and ubiquitous telecom connectivity to the remote and uncovered geographies of the country. With the technological advancement in satellite communication technologies, it has now become possible to provide high-speed broadband directly to the consumers. Broadband services in unserved and underserved areas are essential for the increasing need for digital access to citizen services, education, health services, market for agricultural and local produce, and access to internet for other opportunities available in the digital medium. Besides telecom connectivity and broadband services, satellite plays an important role in the broadcasting sector also by providing a reliable, scalable, and high-quality means of transmitting audio and video content across vast geographies. Satellite plays an indispensable role in the television sector, particularly for teleport services and DTH services, significantly enhancing the reach and quality of television services. To bridge the gaps in connectivity for broadband and broadcast, particularly in the rural and remote areas, it requires considerable efforts towards development of terrestrial infrastructure. The emerging satellite technologies can play a vital role to help accelerate broadband and broadcast penetration by using spectrum bands across L-band, S-band, C-band, KU and KA band, and B and W bands. Satellite systems can also play a vital role to manage connectivity with vehicles, vessels in the sea, aircrafts in the air, and other IoT devices in remote and far-flung areas. The satellite communication also plays a critical role during disasters when terrestrial network is damaged by such disaster. Satellite technology significantly contributes to sustainable development goals due to its unique capabilities in remote sensing, earth exploration, monitoring, data gathering, and imaging, besides providing global connectivity. Monitoring climate change, effects and getting satellite imagery data in managing various parameters of achieving the sustainable development goals is another important opportunity in the satellite sector. Massive innovations such as the high throughput satellites, LEO and MEO constellations, software-defined satellites, satellites with steerable beams are revolutionizing the satellite industry. These developments are set to bring paradigm shift in the access to broadband and broadcast needs. Satellite communication are also being used to provide high-capacity cellular backhaul, which helps in increasing digital penetration. High-capacity satellites are also able to provide cost-effective broadcast capacities for high-definition and 4K videos for the media industry. TRAI has issued, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, that is TRAI has issued various recommendations to the government to enable growth and reforms in the satellite communication domain. In its recommendations on provision of cellular backhaul connectivity via satellite through VSAT, issued in July 2020, TRAI recommended to permit VSAT operators to provide backhaul connectivity for cellular mobile services and Wi-Fi hotspots. TRAI also recommended for removal of restrictions on data rate of VSAT terminals. Further, in its recommendations on licensing framework for satellite-based connectivity for low bitrate applications issued in August 2021, TRAI recommended that the GNPCS and VSAT licensees should be permitted to provide data connectivity for IoT devices through satellite, and the IoT devices should not be treated as user terminal stations for the purpose of levy of license fee and spectrum charges. Doing away with the NOC charges for use of space segment was also recommended by TRAI. It was also recommended to have a single window online common portal for grant of various approvals, permissions, allocations, etc. In its recommendations on ease of doing business in telecom and broadcasting sector, issued in May 2023, TRAI recommended that Department of Space may publish a list of approved foreign satellites or satellite systems. TRAI also recommended to permit the service licenses to hire foreign satellites capacities for a longer period as per need. These recommendations have helped various reforms by the government in satellite communication arena. The reforms include removal of barriers of antenna size and carrier speeds, removal of NOC charges, waiver of SACFA clearance on co-located terminals, removal of mandatory performance verification testing, that is MPVT charges, and removal of annual license fee for M2M or IoT devices for captive VSAT CUG license. The scope of satellite licenses has been enhanced to enable the connectivity to M2M or IoT devices. VSAT providers are now permitted to provide cellular mobile backhaul link or Wi-Fi hotspot backhaul link to the access service providers. This can help telcos to extend cost-effective coverage in rural and remote areas that are yet to be connected with fiber. Automated and contactless online processing of all the applications through Saral Sanchar portal has been established to simplify the existing processes. Replacement of multi-level scrutiny by NOC wing and WPC wing with a single scrutiny by each unit has also been envisaged. For television broadcasting services, the broadcasters uplink the signals of their television channels via teleports using C-band satellites. MIB has revised its policy guidelines for uplinking and downlinking of television channels in 2022 to ease out the restrictions on uplinking of foreign channels with an aim to make India an uplinking hub of satellite television channels. A broader satellite footprint ensures that signals can be transmitted across a large area. Leveraging extensive satellite coverage, Indian teleports may effectively serve Indian as well as foreign broadcasters targeting diverse audiences worldwide. TRAI recently in its recommendations on inputs for formulation of National Broadcasting Policy 2024 issued recently on 28 June 2024 has recommended strategies to make India an uplinking hub by enabling the development of state-of-the-art robust uplinking infrastructure and competitive environment. Further, the Indian Space Policy 2023 issued by the Department of Space has opened the doors for enhanced participation of non-government entities in carrying out end-to-end activities in the space domain and with an aim to provide them a level playing field. India is also making significant strides in the development of dedicated space ports and parks to bolster its space industry. In February 2024, Honorable Prime Minister laid the foundation stone for India's second spaceport in Tamil Nadu. This will complement the existing satellite launch capabilities, particularly for the smaller satellites. The new policy and reforms are aimed to unleash the space sector for larger participation of the space industry and startups to achieve greater social, economic and technological progress for the country and the humanity. India's satellite communication sector is flourishing and has the potential to propel the country to new heights. Working with all stakeholders, the country can build on dynamism already created to further deepen, widen and scale its digital access for all citizens. I believe that various aspects of the technological development in satellite communication and its use will be discussed and deliberated in this event. I extend my best wishes for the success of this event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lahoti. We now call upon Dr. Pavan Kumar Goenka, the Chairman in Space, is also the present Chairman of the Board of Governors of the IIT Madras and the retired MD of Mahindra & Mahindra. May request him to kindly come and present his special address to the gathering.
His Excellency Mr. Philip Green, High Commissioner of Australia to India, Dr. Somntah, Secretary of the BOS and Chairman ISRO, Chairman TRAI, and other dignitaries on the dais. I am honored to be speaking in this inaugural session of India Space Congress. I'm very happy to see the gathering here. I see it's a standing room only. And that's what's happening to all the space conferences these days. We need to get to bigger and bigger rooms in successive conferences. And also very good participation from outside India. That means the importance of Indian space sector is not just for India, but global. And Subbarao and Anil, in very short time, you have made the India Space Congress as the place to be for any space event in the annual event that we have. So a lot of people ask me whether I am going to this conference, and I had to be, because everybody expects anybody in space to be in this conference. Now we had our industry meet in Indian space just about 18 days ago. So there is not that much new that has happened in 18 days, and therefore those who were in that conference probably will hear me say the same thing that I said 18 days ago. But let me say that the space sector in India is moving at the speed of an orbiting satellite, pun intended. In the last 12 months, we have seen so much that has happened. A lot of it has been talked about by the previous speaker, so I won't repeat it. But the G20 conference in India, the Chandrayaan 3 launch, Aditya L1, and so on and so forth. In fact, what ISRO has done in the last 12 months has made India proud. And the private sector is not left far behind. In fact, many companies, such as Agniban, Skyroot, Dhruv Space, Pixel, Bellatrix, all of these have kind of moved out of that value of depth that we talked about and have reached the commercial exploitation area. And clearly, the result of that, there is a lot of interest in investors also in investing in these startups. In fact, just 2 days ago, I met a very early investor in Agniti. And he told me that he had written off that investment and forgotten all about it. And suddenly that investment has moved up to the top of his successful investments because of what happened just about 1 month ago. So we're moving on 2 tracks. A track of scientific and technical exploitation, where ISRO obviously is leading the way, and we are kind of at a peak in the last 2 years of what we're achieving and what will be achieved in the next 2 years. I'm sure Dr. Somntah will talk about in more details, so I won't go into that. And similarly, the startup or the private sector is at an inflection point with lots that's happening. And what I'm happy to see is that all the space startups that we have in India are really deep tech, in true sense. They're deep tech, and every one of them is working on things that have not been explored before. Trying to do something new, trying to do something that much bigger companies, agencies have stayed away from for the risk of failure. So I'm very, very happy to see that kind of thing happening. We have now more than 200 startups, as you are aware. Last year we got $135 million of investment in startups, and that was even before the new FDI policy. And after the new FDI policy, I expect that number to go up very rapidly. And not only the startups, the more established companies like APL, like TASL, L&T, they're also looking at space in a new angle, trying to do a lot more than what they've been doing before. I'm very happy to see some new big players coming, like TASL, for example, relatively new in the space domain. Geo, in partnership with SES, coming in a big way, OneWeb coming in a big way, and many other companies that are waiting in the wings to come into India in partnership. And there are many companies that on their own want to be in India. I'm very happy to hear Deepak say that they want to be an Indian company, India-like company, something like that we said. So they want to act like an Indian company, right? They want to act like an Indian company. So very happy to see that, the kind of interest that we have in India. Now, in terms of in space, we're basically working on what I consider 2 primary thrust areas. The first thrust area is the whole authorization, regulatory approval, ease of doing business, single window, all of those things, where we have made some progress, a lot more work to be done, and we have discussed in detail during the industry meet. I won't go into too much detail here. But our thrust there again is to reduce the time it takes to give authorization, coordinating with different departments within the government to make sure that we are all aligned together, to make sure that you don't have to do multiple applications with different departments. All of that will take some time, but we're making good progress in that. The second one is about the driving Indian space economy. And as you are aware that InSpace along with ISRO had done a decadal vision just about 8-9 months ago that we had announced, where we have talked about $44 billion space economy for India by 2033. And it's broken down in a lot of detail. If you have not seen the document, I would urge you to go to the InSpace website. The document is there. And we have done a fairly detailed task of where $44 billion will come from. And again, 3 weeks ago in the industry meet, we had given some indications of the kind of things that we are putting in place to make that happen. Now you will realize that $44 billion is easier said than done. From where we are to get to that number, a lot of work has to be done, and that work will not be done just by one or two or three agencies. It is something where the whole country will have to come together and collaborate together to make that happen. And we will be looking at help from many people from outside India, many companies that have shown interest in India. So the roadmap is work in progress, and what I urge you is to let us know what you think we should be doing. Because InSpace's role is of a suprabhar in Hindi. That means a facilitator, a coordinator. Work will be done by everybody here that is sitting in this room. Now, what I would say is that for that to happen, one of the things that the industry will have to do is not to be shy about investment. Take risks, and you will have to put capacity perhaps before demand. Because if you wait to wait for demand, then capacity, there will be no time to put the capacity in. Now let me take a couple of minutes on SATCOM. Rainer talked about how SATCOM will be an engine of growth for the commerce, for the space industry, and talked about how we might grow in terms of requirement globally by 10x. Now, if you look at the decadal vision, you will see that 30% of $44 billion we expect to come from SATCOM, about $14 billion. And that will depend a lot on how the capacity requirement grows. In fact, currently we are in the process of estimating what the requirement will be in India. I think today we are at about 25 Gbps of high throughput capacity. 48 Gbps will come from GSAT-20 fairly soon. But my colleagues are working on a longer term estimate, and I have seen numbers as high as 2 TBps. And I'm not yet willing to accept that number, and I have requested my colleagues to work with many of the industry players, work with ISRO, work with SIA, to really come up with a definitive number of where SATCOM requirement would be in India. And it's very important for us as a regulator for industry, because what we authorize will also depend on how we see the capacity to be. And the growth will come from multiple areas. We will have obviously many GSO satellites, many more satellites that will be feeding into the Indian continent. There will be constellations that are coming in. We already have approved 2 constellations. 2 more are in the pipeline for approval. We see many multinationals who have satellites that are not yet serving India applying to us for giving authorization to serve India. We have NSIL, who currently owns all the Indian satellites, GSO satellites. They would also very soon be coming up with their long-term plan on how they will be replacing these satellites, because some of them will start coming to end of life in about 2 or 3 years. And we have some NGOs, the private industry players in India, who are also looking at how to justify getting into launching large satellites. Now, what we are looking at is how do we balance the requirement? How do we make sure that we do not have shortage of capacity? At the same time, how do we make sure that we don't have overcapacity? Because if there is overcapacity, then of course commercially nobody wins. My request to multinationals who are coming to India, and I have talked to each one of them individually when we had meeting with them, we should look at India not just as a market, but to look at India as a place to do more value addition. I think it's very important for us that we see that, because if we want to grow to a $44 billion industry, it won't simply happen